Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We've got a pile of sources here detailing something, well, pretty head-scratching going on at Meta with their AI strategy. We're going to try and make sense of it.
Yeah, it's quite the paradox, isn't it? On one hand, Meta spends months, maybe longer, just aggressively hunting down elite AI talent.
And throwing around absolutely wild signing bonuses. We're hearing figures up to $100 million just to pull top people from OpenAI, Google, you name it.
Absolutely. That whole push defined their strategy for a while. Mark Zuckerberg was clear he wanted the most elite, talent-dense AI team in the industry. It felt less like hiring, more like a talent raid.
A raid, yeah. And wasn't there also that huge investment in Scale AI?
That's right, $14.3 billion into Scale AI, and then they appointed its CEO, Alexander Wang, as Meta's very first chief AI officer. It signaled this massive commitment to, foundational research, but also scaling up data, getting the pipelines right.
Okay, so massive growth, huge ambition, pouring billions in,
Yeah.
and then screeching halt.
Suddenly, August 2025, hiring just stops, paused.
And now, the really confusing part, they've cut around 600 roles from that exact same priority area, the superintelligence labs.
Right.
To anyone watching, it looks, well, chaotic. Maybe even like panic at the top.
It certainly looks odd from the outside, yeah. But that's what we're digging into today. Is this actually a calculated strategic reset, deliberate pruning? Or is it more of a silent red flag? Maybe a sign that integrating all that expensive talent just didn't work out.
And we've got the memos, the executive comments, the restructuring reports to piece it together.
Exactly.
So let's start with that spending spree, because the scale, it's just hard to wrap your head around. Those $100 million bonuses you mentioned, that's not just competitive hiring, is it? That's like acquisition territory.
Totally. Think of it like buying up intellectual property, but the IP is embedded in these key researchers. Meta clearly believed a few elite minds held the keys to the next big AI breakthroughs.
So they were willing to pay almost anything. Seemingly, yes. And bringing in Wang from Scale AI was also crucial. It showed they weren't just focused on the flashy research, but also the nuts and bolts, scalability, data quality, reliable pipelines. That's Wang's expertise, so investing in the whole stack, really.
Like the underlying infrastructure. But then, months later, the U-turn. 600 jobs cut. Superintelligence Labs shrinks to just under 3,000 people. What did the handling of those cuts suggest? Was it messy?
Actually, no. The process seems quite structured, which points away from pure chaos. Affected staff got 16 weeks of severance, plus 2 more weeks for each year they'd been there.
Okay, that's fairly standard, maybe even a bit generous.
And they were given options to apply for other roles inside Meta. So it suggests a planned, albeit painful, downsizing aimed at, perhaps, efficiency, not just a desperate slash-and-burn cost cut.
Okay, which brings us right back to the core question.
Yeah.
Why prune at all? You've just spent billions collecting these prize plants. Why immediately start cutting branches? What was the official reason given?
The official line is pretty blunt. Bureaucracy.
Ah, the classic. Right. Alexander Wang, the new CAIO, put out a memo saying Meta had become too bureaucratic. And the goal of these cuts, to speed up decisions and make each remaining person more load-bearing with greater scope and impact.
Load-bearing. That's a corporate speak. But doesn't that feel contradictory? You pay $100 million for someone because they're supposedly the best. Then months later, you're saying the organization they joined is too slow and clunky. Doesn't that point to a failure higher up, maybe in how they integrated everyone?
It really gets at the heart of it, doesn't it? Yeah. Bureaucracy is the public reason. But digging into the sources suggests there was also significant pressure from the top.
Zuckerberg.
Indications are, yes. Mark Zuckerberg was reportedly frustrated, privately frustrated, that Meta's AI models, especially the big Llama 4 release, weren't delivering those knockout blows, the major breakthroughs or market impact he expected after spending so much.
Okay, that makes sense. Llama 4 was seen as good, competitive even, but maybe not the game changer they needed. Perhaps it lagged in certain areas compared to rivals.
That seems to be the subtext. When you invest that much, you're not looking for just incremental gains. You want leaps.
Right.
And if your star $100 million researcher is stuck navigating approvals half the time or coordinating across endless management layers, well, you're just wasting that investment. The sheer size of the operation might have become the bottleneck.
So the cuts are maybe an attempt to force a kind of startup mentality back into the labs, get things moving faster.
That seems to be the idea. Cut the friction, increase the speed.
Okay, so if the diagnosis is bureaucracy and the cure is cutting, we need to look at who got cut. Who is deemed bureaucracy and who is deemed essential breakthrough talent. That should tell us a lot about the real strategic shift.
Absolutely. And the cuts were definitely not across the board. They paint a really clear picture of an internal power shift, maybe establishing a new guard.
So who is safe? Who got protected?
Well, explicitly excluded were teams like TBD Lab. That's the sort of elite, heavily protected environment where many of those newly recruited high-priced stars landed.
Right, the new recruits.
The most recent, highest-profile ones, yes. And certain key execs like Nat Friedman and Daniel Gross were also shielded. Meta is basically ring-fencing its newest, most expensive, and presumably most agile bets.
Okay, so that's the new guard. Who represents the old guard or the parts deemed less agile that faced the cuts?
This is where it gets really interesting. The cuts hit FAIR, the fundamental AI research group.
Wow, fair. That's Meta's long-standing, almost academic research powerhouse, isn't it?
Exactly, that's a big signal. Also hit were various product-focused AI units and some of the general AI infrastructure teams within the Superintelligence Labs division itself.
So it looks like a shift away from the more traditional, perhaps slower academic-style research affair.
Towards the more focused, perhaps faster-paced, immediate impact goals embodied by TBD Lab and the new recruits.
It's like corporate surgery, isn't it? Focusing all the resources and trimming away the parts perceived as slower or less central to the immediate goal of, well, winning the AI race.
That frames it well. It's an architectural realignment.
Right.
When you're in a race this fast, maybe historical structures get sacrificed for perceived strategic density and speed. They're doubling down hard on the people they just paid a fortune for.
No, we have to talk about the money again, because while all this surgical trimming is happening, Meta is still spending absolutely colossal amounts. The timing here is just remarkable.
The timing is wild, yes.
Yeah.
Literally the day before these layoffs were announced,
Uh-huh.
Meta finalizes a massive $27 billion financing deal with Blue Owl Capital.
$27 billion secured one day, hundreds of AI researchers let go the next. That needs explaining. What's that huge chunk of change for?
It's earmarked specifically for building their new Hyperion AI data center down in Louisiana.
Ah, okay, infrastructure.
Exactly. And this really highlights the key distinction you need to grasp here. Meta is not pulling back from AI investment overall. Not at all.
They're just shifting where the money goes.
Precisely. They seem to be reallocating resources, less on operational expenditure or OPEX, which includes headcount, salaries, that sort of thing, and more towards capital expenditure, CapEx, hardware, the data centers, the raw compute power you need for these massive foundation models.
So fewer managers, maybe fewer support roles, but more raw power for the core researchers and the models themselves, like the upcoming Llama 5.
That seems to be the logic.
Yeah.
And we know the overall spending trend is still upwards. Zuckerberg himself confirmed that Meta's AI spending is actually set to increase in 2026 compared to 2025.
So this restructuring, these cuts, it's really about optimizing the efficiency of that massive spend, making sure
Right.
that bureaucracy doesn't slow down the return on the hardware investment.
That appears to be the strategic rationale. Efficiency, speed, focus, not panic, not retreat.
Okay, let's zoom out then. What does this move signal to the rest of Silicon Valley? What are the broader industry implications? It must be causing some debate.
Oh, definitely. It's forcing some tough questions. Like, are we seeing the end of the era where you just build enormous, sprawling AI research labs? Is simply hiring the best talent enough? Or does the structure around them matter more?
And that core question, do smaller, leaner, maybe sharper teams actually outperform huge legacy groups in this field? Meta's basically placing a massive bet that they do.
They're testing that hypothesis in real time, with billions on the line. Agility versus sheer scale.
How are the industry analysts reading this? Are they buying the strategic reset story, or are they skeptical?
Generally, the analysts seem to see the logic, or at least the attempt at logic. Dan Ives, for instance, called it digestion mode for Meta after that huge spending binge.
Okay, like pausing to integrate.
Yeah, and Daniel Lewin described it as a natural resting point before the next big push, the next wave of innovation. So the view is generally that it's deliberate, a strategic reshaping to maximize the impact of those huge investments they've already made and continue to make.
So if we pull all these threads together from the sources, what's the core strategy Meta is signaling here? What are the key pillars of this reset?
It looks like four main things they're betting on. First, aggressively cutting bureaucracy, anything slowing decisions down.
Okay.
Second, really doubling down on elite talent density, focusing resources heavily on that TBD lab model and the star recruits.
Right, protecting the perceived best.
Third, continuing that massive infrastructure build-out. The $27 billion data center deal proves that. CapEx remains king.
Got it.
And fourth, clearly prioritizing those teams focused on immediate breakthroughs over the more established, maybe longer-term research units like FAIR.
So the message seems to be, in today's AI race, just getting bigger isn't the answer anymore. It's about being leaner, faster, more agile, fewer decision layers, even if it means making painful cuts. It's pruning to grow, essentially.
That's the narrative. Betting on a sharper, leaner AI group that can move with, well, almost a startup's velocity, even inside a giant company.
It's a huge gamble, though. Its success really hinges on whether those protected elite teams actually deliver the breakthroughs.
Absolutely. Can they produce the next llama models that truly leapfrog the competition? That's what justifies the bonuses, the infrastructure spend, and the disruption of the cuts. If they don't deliver relatively soon, this whole thing could look very different in hindsight.
Yeah, the proof will be in the pudding, maybe months or even a year or two down the line. But there's one final thought, a kind of risk highlighted in the material that we should leave you, the listener, with.
Right. The restructuring might be strategically sound on paper, but there's the human element. Alexander Wang himself acknowledged the talent they let go, especially from groups like FAIR. These are smart, experienced people.
So the provocative question is,
Does this calculated move ultimately benefit Meta most? Or did they just inadvertently release a wave of highly skilled AI talent, the very brain power it shed, that will now go on to fuel innovation at their biggest competitors? Could this end up accelerating breakthroughs at places like OpenAI or Google?
it's definitely something to watch. Where does all that incredible, newly available talent land next? That could be a story in itself.